talked about wanting to talk about habit loops. So morning and evening routines. And like when someone is struggling to establish those, like what might be missing. So let's talk about that, habit loops.
I love it. So let's talk about what a habit loop is first. And I think that a lot of people know what this is and maybe just don't know that term. The habit loop is largely being advertised by the morning routine on social media these days, right? Everyone boasting their morning routine. I get up at 1:36 a.m. and, face my God and pray. And then I journal for a whole bunch of time. And then I practice 30 minutes of deep silence with my partner where we stare into each other's eyes. And then I dip my face in insert brand name of beverage with ice cubes. And then I get this cold plunge in, and then I go in my infrared sauna. It's the whole thing, right? And what I'll note is that what these people are doing is they're basically making a list of all the things they likely will pull from, which is to say, I challenge that most people that are on the internet touting these like absurd morning routines, it's unlikely they do all of those things every day. They likely do some combo of those things every day, which I think is helpful. But a habit loop is typically the things that set your cadence of your life, right? So we all have a circadian rhythm, which is a sleep-wake cycle. And so there is time that we're awake every day, and there's time that we're asleep every day, hopefully, right? And if not, you're in grave danger and should definitely reach out. But it's to say, most of us have a morning routine. That one's the one that's more obvious to people. Most people do not have a night routine.
Yeah.
And this is where the habit loop becomes so helpful. And I can even just kind of like walk through one and then we can dig in from there. But for me personally, there is a wake up in the morning, and it's typically a period of like, I call it like no stimulus, which is I'm just like with my thoughts. And so I like stretch my fingers and toes and I stretch my body.
Terrifying.
Yeah, I know. To be alone with your thoughts. I'm a psychopath, by the way. So I start my morning alone with my thoughts and I get connected with my body. This is a short little thing, but it's what I do to kind of like basically get myself to get out of bed. There's usually some puppy snuggles in my morning because that's one of those grounding things for me. And then there's sort of my go-to like cadence of the morning, like brushing my teeth, doing my things, feeding the pup. And then usually it is a dog walk, and then it is a workout. And then for me after that, it is a shower, all that kind of thing. And then it is some emails, some priming, all that kind of stuff. So like that cadence exists. And when that exists, that sets me up to feel really good going into my day. When I like start my first meeting, especially because I have such a meeting heavy schedule, whether I'm meeting with our dietitian team or our admin team or our marketing team or prospective business people, like I'm constantly engaging on all floors of case specific. And so I average an obnoxious amount of meetings per day and per week. So if I don't do those things in the morning, my energy going into those meetings is affected. And I'm a very charismatic, talkative person, and people can tell immediately. It's hilarious. They'll be like, hey, you don't seem yourself today. And that means I'm not like bubbly and like vibrating. And it's so like there's a level of expectation of who I am and what I bring to the table. And I pride myself on that. So what's interesting is that morning routine primes me to have my day. And then the comment is, most people kind of stop there. They get to their end of day and they're burnt out and they just kind of black out until they
scroll
go to bed.
Until they realize they have 6 hours before they have to wake up, and then they try to fall asleep, and then they're stuck alone with their thoughts and they spiral, and then they're up for another hour, and then they're stressing about being up for another hour. And then
You've never done this before.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So here's the point of the habit loop is that you just identified what I call the gap in the habit loop, which is that typically a good morning routine is tied to some night routine. The night routine might not be as extensive, but it does still need to exist. So for me, I know that if I don't get to bed by a certain time, I am not going to wake up to do the things I like to do, which means some things in that list is going to get shortened, and that's going to throw off my day. And so I have to get to bed at a certain time. Well, I have a certain amount of time I need to wind down, which is to say, like, I need to like not be stimulated by anything. It's not a ton of time, 20, 30 minutes, but I know that exists. So if I have a bedtime I know I need to hit, I also have a wind down time I know I need to hit. I also don't sleep well if I eat too close to bedtime. So I have a dinner time I need to hit. And so you start to hear there's a couple key things that if those don't happen, if I take some late meetings and that pushes my evening late, and then that pushes my dinner, or it pushes my wind down, or it pushes my bedtime, those are the things that affect my morning routine. And so what I work with clients on a lot of the time is to identify the gap in their habit loop. And most of the time what they identify is the thing they're critical of. So you hear it a lot, like, I know I need to work out in the morning. I just have been really struggling to get up, and I know I just need to do it. So their solution is to somehow use willpower to brute force something.
Eye of the tiger your way through something that could just be an extra hour of sleep.
Yep. Or 30 minutes of not scrolling, because it doesn't even always need to be sleep, because for some people 6 hours of sleep is going to be their reality. Like that just may be true. And so, but it's whether it's sleep, whether it's the wind down routine, a lot of times you hear the person criticizing the thing that they're missing, not realizing that the reason it's missing is because of something before it. And because it's morning, people think that morning is the start, but your morning starts with your night.
Yeah.
They are connected. It is a loop. It is not each day is not its own thing. It is a circle, and that circle can either be a vicious spiral downward, or what I like to call a prolific spiral upward, where good things are feeding on good things, just like bad things can feed off bad things. And so if you're somebody that felt very seen by what I just said, the whole, I want to work out in the morning, it's the only time that I'm really able to get my workout in, I've got to get up, I just have been struggling to get up. Instead of blaming your willpower and saying you just need to somehow figure out a way to go from 0 to 100 in the morning, that may be true. As a side note, there is a point where you just have to TFB it, too effing bad, and like make it happen, Band-Aid style. But that's typically not where this starts. Usually before that, it's what is setting me up to fail, right? And better tweaking those things that come before. And for me, like I said, I don't need this like long and drawn out night routine. I need to have a dinner at a sensible time, and I need to have a period of time before I go to sleep that I have no stimulation, where I'm not watching something or scrolling something, or like I'm not stimulating my brain. I'm actually like letting my brain get off the hamster wheel, because what ends up happening is I turn all the things off, and then my brain has thoughts. And so what most people do is they basically are plugged into things until bed. They lay down and they either find themselves laying there with their brain spiraling, or they wake up in the middle of the night with their brain spiraling. You need time to unwind your thoughts. You need to be alone with your thoughts.
Yeah, and you need practice with that. You need practice being alone with your thoughts when it's not in the middle of the night when you're spiraling, right? Because if it's like running on the treadmill at like an 8-minute per mile speed and then jumping off and like expecting to feel normal, right? Like you need to slow things down.
Exactly. And so it may be something simple like that. But so I wanted to draw the awareness that your days don't start and end and not affect each other. They are all connected, and they're connected in a loop. And that loop can either be a vicious cycle, which is the trend downward, where the scrolling till bedtime and then delaying bedtime and then waking up groggy and then not getting your workout in, and then, go down and down and down. Over time, that will make you more and more tired and exhausted and frustrated. You feel like you're digging a hole. The same can be true if you make some small tweaks. It may be something as simple as, I am going to put my phone down at 9:30 or 10 or 10:30, whatever your respective goal time is, so that for 20 to 30 minutes before bed, I'm not stimulated by that. Something as simple as that can be the difference in like deep sleep and REM sleep. And it can be the difference between like waking up and actually feeling good. It can be sleeping through the night, like actually falling asleep well, staying asleep well. It can be a complete lightning bolt to your habit loop. And so instead of looking at the thing that you want to be happening, that you're criticizing isn't happening, it'd be good to look before it and see if there's something that may be perpetuating a negative cycle, and then putting the wrench in the right place to basically like jolt that loop from vicious to prolific.
Yeah. And what you're saying right now is exactly what we do with clients in terms of like problem solving. A lot of my clients come in like sheepishly, like, I just need to do it. Like I
know what you want me to do. I just need to do it. And
it's like, well, let's actually problem solve. So like starting with, if you're struggling to work out, why? Oh, because I'm struggling to wake up. why are we struggling to wake up? Oh, because, we don't have a good evening routine. Okay, cool, problem solved. Now we have something to actually work on. And I would definitely encourage someone to if you don't have an evening routine currently, just start with one thing. My friends know that if they text me after 8 p.m., there's a very low likelihood that I'm responding. And it's because I plug my phone in on another floor of the house from where I sleep. And
off the grid time.
For an hour before bed, I am not looking at a screen. I'm maybe watching the sunset on the deck, or going for a little walk without my phone, or hanging out with my partner, or maybe I'm reading, or some combination of those types of wind down routines. So you were saying with whether it's a morning routine or evening routine, there's 5 things I just mentioned. I don't do all 5 of those things, but I do some combination of those things most nights. And it's to prime yourself. Those activities I've now associated with winding down. So it primes my brain to start moving towards bedtime.
Yeah. And notice 2 things there. The amount of time you prefer to wind down and the amount of time I prefer to wind down are different times. And so instead of listening to the influencer that says you must do an hour of this, it's no, that works for that person. That is a potential idea to try, and then fit it to you. You may be someone that needs a little bit more downtime or a little bit less downtime based on your personal preferences, stage of life, burnout, stimuli outside of you. So first, hear that there's a customizability to this. And then also recognize that there is a team, right? Which is to say, you named 5 things. Instead of getting obsessed with I have to do these 3 things exactly every day in this sequence, and now all of a sudden you feel like you're in this militant scheduled life. Those habits don't feel supportive. They now feel forced or coerced. Recognize that those same 3 things could be opportunities, not obligations. And so the bigger the list, the better, as far as I'm concerned. If you have 10 ways that you like to wind down, that means that Monday through Friday, 2 weeks, you get to do a different thing every night.
Yeah, more tools in the toolbox.
Yes. And it's funny. That's something that we could go and fractal towards with habit tendencies. But it is to say that the bigger the team, the better. So having a bunch of things you like to do in the morning, great. A bunch of things you like to do in the evening, great. Giving yourself some buckets. So you may have 10 things on each side and you do 2 of them at night and 3 of them in the morning. Find a flow that works for you.
Yeah, make it specific to you too.
Yes.
In the summer, for us, it will vary seasonally in the evenings. In the summertime, we like to get a walk in because we love that it's cooler and we love that we can be outside and active or watch the sunset on the deck. But in the wintertime, when the sun sets at 4:35 p.m., we're doing paint by numbers. I know I've already even mentioned it. But we do paint by numbers as a way to unwind because it's not fun to be outside. So it can vary seasonally, or, I do a priming technique that I got from Tony Robbins we were talking about earlier this morning. And that is something that, I'll fade in and out of in different seasons of my life. I don't always have 15 minutes to do this in the morning. But when I do it, I know I feel amazing. And that's one of the tools in the toolbox that might kind of fade in and out depending on the season and what's needed.
I love too the idea that there's a base, which is to say you know that priming tool works for you. And so fast forward, you have a busy week. It's, you got a lot going on and you feel out of sorts. Well, your brain will start scrambling for ideas unless it has a base. Then it'll just go back to base. It'll say, oh, I haven't done the priming technique in a little while.
Yep.
Right? Having that thing that you default to is a really good way to reset, right? It jolts it back into motion. So you know that the Tony Robbins priming technique, which I pull a lot of my morning stuff from that, but that priming technique is the thing that you can go back to press hard reset. And it's you putting your foot down and saying, hey, I'm going to slow down. I'm taking time and cadence and pace back. The world operates on my schedule, not the other way around. That's all you're doing. Yeah. And it puts you back in charge. It makes you feel like you're driving. And unsurprisingly, you're going to then drive the rest of the day. You're going to drive through your day instead of being driven by your day. Totally. So morning and night routines aren't meant to be these militant task-mastered lists that exhaust you. They are meant to be opportunities for you to engage with self, slow down, become present, and reset the pace and the cadence of the day.
Yeah, you get to choose your focus, and that drives your mood, your feelings, and your behavior. So it's just a virtuous cycle.
It's huge. And you're not always going to be perfect with it. I'm not either. And that's, but the key is I can tell when I'm a little off and it's, what was missing? And so it becomes this diagnostic of, my night routine was a little bit compressed because I took that extra meeting. And doesn't mean I shouldn't have taken the meeting, but it's why I won't take meetings like that every day. Right? Yep. Those are those pieces of the puzzle where you can diagnose and then you can get back to base pretty quickly.
Totally. When I have a moment where I'm just feeling really overwhelmed and stressed, I try to remind myself this isn't not failing. This is a check engine light.
Yep.
It's we need to change something about what's going on. And adding in, getting back to those basics are really helpful for that, I found.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
There
Habit
it is.
loops.
Habit looping.